Chief Minister Conrad K. Sangma, who also holds the finance portfolio, chaired Meghalaya's first ever pre-budget consultation for the 2025-26 fiscal year on Wednesday. The session focused on transparency, public participation, and strategic investments in key sectors. The consultation featured a budget presentation by Dr. Vijay Kumar D, Commissioner and Secretary of the Finance Department. Following the presentation, the Chief Minister directly addressed stakeholder suggestions, reaffirming the government's commitment to fiscal discipline, infrastructure development, and public welfare. Discussions during the session covered the state's growth trajectory, debt misconceptions, challenges in non-tax revenue, sectoral investments, capital expenditure, welfare programs, effective fund utilization, and more.
As you're aware that the budget session is going to start next month, or this month towards the end, and we are also in the process of finalizing our numbers for different allocations to be made, different schemes to be implemented, and what more we could do. And in that whole process, we felt it most appropriate, which we will ensure that this is held every year, is the consultation with the public at large. This budget is for the people, and the people of the state, the youth, the different stakeholders, the farmers, entrepreneurs, and so on and so forth. And therefore, I strongly felt that it was most appropriate to at least give some space for our citizens to express their concerns and give their suggestions while we make the budget which is meant for the people. Having said that, I'm not saying that we can take everybody's suggestion on board. I'm neither saying that we will take everybody's suggestion and include it in the budget, but there could be some really wonderful suggestions that could come from the people that could be game changer. And therefore, without giving that opportunity to all of you, it would be really unfair for us to move forward in the way we do. And that is really what the purpose of today's program is. And we are here to listen to more to all of you. Again, I do apologize that we may not be able to take everybody's questions, but of course, you can give it to us in writing and hand it over to us. And even on Facebook, whoever is giving suggestions, we will be noting down all the suggestions that come on Facebook also. So you can always just comment. I will reply to some of them while we go ahead with this consultation. And so that's really what the purpose is. You have seen the trend for the last 4 to 5 years, and really the way things are moving forward, thanks to all the support from Government of India, and of course, very importantly, thanks to the work of the team. You see, the funds are available in Delhi, but it requires us to be having the capacity to absorb the funds and utilize the funds and present it again to Government of India to be then able to get more funds. And in the last many years, the government machinery has been able to do that. The capacity to absorb, to implement has gone up in Meghalaya. The same team, the same people, but we just done things in a much better manner. Of course, there's lots more to be done. I'm not saying that everything is perfect, but we are definitely on the right path. And we need to continue this momentum and growth. As you can see, 16.2% is the growth rate in the last, which is higher than the national average. And we expect this to further move forward. But as I said, while this growth story continues, I think the story is incomplete without the involvement of the citizens of our state.
In the very first slide, which we wanted to show, is on the GSDP trajectory. If we look at the gross state domestic product, so Meghalaya's growth trend, which I think we have been harping in every meeting. This is the slide which we have shown in the previous presentation also. This is the slide which we have shown to the Finance Commission also. and the chairperson of the Finance Commission also appreciated the growth rate of Meghalaya. If we look at the growth trajectory over the last during the period 2015 to about 20, so our growth overall, the CAGR, was only about 8.4%. But I think post-COVID, so thanks to the growth of the Indian economy is also growing well. And also, more importantly, I think the specific steps that are taken by the state government under the leadership of our Honorable Chief Minister. So the growth rate numbers are very clear. The growth is about 16% if you take the CAGR. So as we move along, based on this very strong growth numbers, that is the reason why we have set out on this ambitious goal that Meghalaya will become a $10 billion economy by 2028, because the growth numbers are good, and these numbers are all MOFSP numbers, which is the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation of the Government of India. So, and if we look at the table below, we can also see overall, as I said, the country's growth rate is also good post-COVID, but Meghalaya is one of the few states in the country where the growth rate is even higher than the national numbers. So this is the first slide which I want to draw everybody's attention, which is, I think, the entire budgeting exercise, our entire aspirations for the future, everything relies on the growth of the state, and those numbers look very good. Next. So the growth, Meghalaya's growth, as we all know, because growth is the function of public investment, of private investments, private capital, savings. So one of the most important thing that is fueling Meghalaya's growth is the government expenditure. So if we just look at the government's, the size of the government's budget and the expenditure numbers over the last, again, we took a longish trend over a 10-year period. So if we look from 2014-15, so the size of the expenditure is typically what the size of the budget is. So the expenditure 10 years ago government expenditure was only 7,600 crores. Last year, which is year 23-24, our expenditure was 21,800, which is close to 22,000 crores. So which means it increased 3 times. So in a 10-year period, the government's expenditure increased 3 times. So that is the kind of growth we have seen, and it is this growth. So obviously, when government expenditure increases, what happens? Basically, better roads, more water supply, more schools, more programs that benefit the citizens. So that is what happens. So therefore, if you look at our the table next to it, there is the expenditure is categorized into revenue and capital. Revenue means revenue expenditure is the expenditure that is made to run the administration of salaries, various kind of ongoing schemes, all that fall under revenue. Capital expenditure is the expenditure we make on new schemes. So if you look at our capital expenditure number, which we have highlighted, the growth rate of capital expenditure in the last 4 years has been 34%. So which means the state is spending more. In the last 10 years, we had a 3-time increase in the expenditure. In that, our focus in the last 5 years has been on capital expenditure, which means newer projects are being taken up. So all these are the ones that are leading to growth. So this is the expenditure scenario. Next. If we look at the expenditure breakup by state and central, again, so both on the state front and the central front we are doing. But one thing in the state front, if we see, our growth rate has been 15%, which means this whole expenditure, while central has been growing, it is state expenditure which is driving this, which means that it is not just the centrally sponsored schemes, but it is the state schemes. State government now has more money to take up various programs. And as you can see, there's a 15% growth in the period 2021 to 24 in the state expenditure. Next, please. Then, as I said, we break the expenditure into revenue and capital. So revenue is, as it is listed there, the normal things that we do to run the state, which is salaries, pensions. These are compulsory expenditures that are unavoidable, that are necessary to run the state. So let's say if we build a new building, a new stadium, the operation and maintenance of the stadium is revenue expenditure, but the investment we make to construct is capital expenditure. So this revenue expenditure, again, if we see, it is going up. But if you see, for example, things like salaries and pensions, so they are not going up so much. So the growth rate of salaries in the period 21 to 24 was only 6%, pensions 14% compared to 12 and 18%. So which means while our expenditure is going, the revenue part is not the one. It's not the revenue expenditure that is increasing, it is the capital expenditure. And because capital expenditure is increasing, that is what will lead to growth. Next. So this is the revenue receipts. This is again very interesting because this shows where is this money coming from. Because till now I have shown what is the expenditure, how much we are spending. So where does our money come from? If we see our money coming from, I'll request to focus on the table. So if you look at the state's own revenue, so first there is a state's own revenue. In state's own revenue, we have tax revenue and non-tax revenue. So that is growing. Then we have transfers from the center. Transfers from the center is basically the centrally sponsored schemes and various programs. That is growing a lot. So if you see 21% is the growth rate in the transfers from the center. So which means over the last 4 or 5 years, whether it is Jal Jeevan Mission, whether it is Narega, whether it is PMAY, so the state has been able to leverage a lot of these programs, get more money. So that is increasing. And then the next one, which is what is called the share in central taxes. I think share in central taxes is the one that is increasing the most. So 24% growth is there in the share of central taxes. That is the money that is constitutionally mandated that the government of India divides between the states. So this we can attribute to two reasons. One is the Indian economy is doing well. As the Indian economy is doing well, whatever share the government of Meghalaya gets, that is increasing. And second, I'd like to take a moment here to explain this share of central taxes is decided by the Finance Commission, which is constituted every 5 years. So the last Finance Commission, it coincided when the last Finance Commission visit happened to the state. It happened in 2019. And that is when our Honorable Chief Minister also, this new government also came at that time. So we were able to make a very strong case to the Finance Commission about the need for additional resources, need for northeastern states, hilly states to have additional money. So the Finance Commission agreed with the case that was made. In fact, our Honorable Chief Minister led the case for all the hill states and the northeastern states. We had a big conference in Uttarakhand. So there, the Finance Commission agreed with our case, and then they agreed to give the northeastern and the hill states a slightly higher amount than before. And that higher amount is actually translating into a large share of central taxes. Because previously our share used to be 0.642%. Now it is 0.767%. So because of that small change, 0.1 percentage increase, so we are able to get a lot of money as share of central taxes from the government of India's divisible pool of taxes. So, yes, sir.
I'll just add also to this slide because it's important for everybody to understand and why we're showing this slide. Because a lot of people are of the opinion that this growth that we are seeing is being funded by debt and by us taking loans. And that is the misconception that we want to clarify with this particular slide. The loans and the debts, of course, are an important part of the investments that are made and the fund that comes in. But those are capped by Government of India. We can't take more than what Government of India allows every state to take. So there is a limited scope for us to go forward. So this chart shows to you, or at least indicates where the money is coming from. So a jump of 24% in central taxes, and our CSS, the transfer from the centers, which is the centrally sponsored schemes, 21% growth in that, and state's own revenue also has gone up. These are the things that have driven a majority of our growth. So this is a very, very important slide to clear the misconception that our growth is being driven by debt. I also want to draw your attention to the second row out there, which third row, which talks about the state's own non-tax revenue. And you can see that it's 0% growth there. And the reason is very simple. Non-tax revenue is actually the royalty and the cess that we get from coal and other products. And obviously that is where we have been facing a huge challenge. But we are on the way to change that. And just to share with all of you, just about 2 days back, the Ministry of Coal has gone to the 2 locations of the scientific mining sites, and they have conducted their survey. We are expecting the reports to be put in about a day or two. And as I said, we are at the final stage of the final scientific mining. So we expect that number also to now slowly grow. So in all fronts, things are moving forward. And as I said, I just wanted to add to what Dr. Vijay has mentioned, that our growth and our investment and expenditure is driven by these resources and not just the debt and the loan, which a lot of misconception is there. Of course, debt and loan is part of the process and the money that comes in, but it is not what has led to the growth, because that is limited. There's a limited amount we can take. We can't take beyond that.
Thank you, sir. And also, I'd also like to clarify on sometimes questions are raised that we are dependent on Government of India. This share of central taxes that we get is not a dependency. It is a right. It is the state's right. The Finance Commission every 5 years decides that Government of India collects the taxes on behalf of all the states, and the Government of India has to devolve it to the states. So in that sense, the biggest share that we get, almost in our 17,000 crores, about 9,000 crores is share of central taxes. So it should not be seen that we are dependent on Government of India. It is our right. It is the state's right. So, and Finance Commission has decided that as a formula. So I have just 2 more slides. Next slide, please. This is our own receipts. Now, if we look at our own taxes, as you saw in the previous slide, we are mostly our big chunk is coming from the share of central taxes and CSS. Our own taxes is about close to 3,000 crores in an 18,000 crore kitty. Again, we all know our state is small, our population is small. So while GST is growing well, as the sir just explained, the non-tax, which is the mining and others, are not growing so well. But I think efforts are being made wherever possible, in excise, in motor vehicles, in all, to increase our own tax base. Next. So now we have shown how this growth has happened and what is the increase in government expenditure. So when we have more money, when the government has more money, what does the government do? Obviously, the government invests it in sectors which are important, which will lead to growth, which will lead to citizen well-being, which will improve things for the people. So if we look at just the investments made in critical sectors, again, we have taken a benchmark of 2015-16 and then the benchmark of last year. So in every sector, more than double. If we look at education, the investment has more than doubled. If we look at roads and bridges, about 1.5 times. Health and family welfare is the biggest. In fact, in health, we are the only state in the country which spends about 9% of our GSDP on health. So that's the kind of number we have, and that's mandated. We are the only state which spends this. So health has grown by more than twice. Then if we look at a sector like PHC, so the expenditure has doubled. So then there is a sector like sports and youth affairs. If you look at the last column, more than 3 times the expenditure, about 3 times. So these are the kind of growths we have seen. And that is what is what we see in the field. I'm sure when we travel to villages, better roads, more PHCs, more sports facilities, all this is the result of this. Next. So this is of last year's actuals, which are the top 10 departments for everybody to have an understanding. So which are the departments where the biggest expenditure is being done? Again, as we would have guessed, education is the big department. Of course, this one includes salaries also. That's why education is the big department. Health is a big department because again, they have a huge workforce. Then public works is a very big department. They spend about 2,000 crores out of our 21,000 crores of expenditure. Planning, because many of the projects are implemented through planning. Power is a very important sector, about 1,200 crores of expenditure. Police, again, 1,200 crores. So these are the critical sectors. Next. So this is again the capital outlay in the top 10 departments. So the previous slide showed what is the total expenditure. This is the capital expenditure, which means the previous slide showed including salaries and all. This is only on projects. So which are the departments where we are investing the maximum? Again, number 1 is PWD, number 2 is power, then it is planning, then it is urban affairs, and the list goes on. So these are the ones where big capital expenditure is being made. Next. So, and in addition to capital expenditure, I'm sure you'll also all appreciate that over the last 3-4 years, we have also been able to launch several beneficiary-oriented programs. So these are many of these programs are new programs, whether it is a program like Focus, whether it is a program like CM Elevate, where already we have spent about 100 crores, whether it's a program like Skills Meghalaya, where about 60 crores has been spent in skilling close to about 20,000 people just in the last 1 year. So all these programs, MHIS is today the largest program in the state. About 210 crores is the allocation for MHIS. So all these beneficiary-oriented programs are also being implemented thanks to the increased availability of resources. Next. So this is the last slide. So basically the purpose as we look at it, sir. So we are expecting from the House comments on what are the sectoral priorities. Are there things that we need to prioritize? How do we improve existing in schemes? Are there any new schemes that can be taken up? Are there any ideas on revenue augmentation and last mile service delivery? So these are some of the things which we would like to hear from the House. I conclude here. Thank you so much. Thank you.